Okay, so this is my shed that I'm grading out a pad for. You can see me in the green shirt on the left, and my helper who's in the blue shirt on the right. He's holding a rotary laser stick with a receiver attached to it to help us see where grade is. Prior to this, I'd just roughly dug out some of the pad. We're going to be putting a 12-inch thick footing around it with a 4-inch thick concrete slab on top. And so we need to get a nice level, firm base. And my initial digging hadn't quite done that. So we had to do a discussion and kind of figure out what the game plan was. It's a little hard to see from the video, but the ground actually was not very level there at all. Over there on the left side, you can see my wife and kids, and our neighbor's cat, who also likes to come visit us. So we're working away. That's my excavator right there. I got that for a very good deal on Craigslist. I think I paid $25,000 for it and have used it to do a ton of work. It's got a 32-inch wide bucket on it, which you can see going to work right now, and that helps dig out quite a bit. Now, initially I was actually not using very good technique here. You can see I was kind of, I was using the teeth to pull material around with, and also kind of using the side of the bucket to push material with, which is an okay technique, but for what I was trying to do, I actually need to do what I'm doing right there, which is kind of put the knuckles down of the bucket and not use the teeth on the front of it, but instead push and pull material using the bottom part of that bucket. That rounded part makes for a whole lot better grading, a whole lot smoother surface, and it doesn't grab a whole ton of material you don't intend to grab. The problem with the teeth is that each time you dip them into the dirt, they're probably 6 inches long, and they grab all sorts of rocks underneath of the soil and pull them to the surface. I'm in incredibly rocky territory. They actually were a gravel quarry had the property under contract before me, and nearly bought it, but they discovered that the rocks only go about 20 feet down and it turns to clay, so they decided not to. But the property itself is absolutely the most rocky property you can imagine. So if you want to do any work on it, you have to have an excavator or something like that. It's just, you can't work with all the rocks and boulders that are underground here. But using these knuckles, I'm actually able to push things around, kind of smooth it out. You can see that there's a ton of rocks in there, and we're trying to kind of deal with that, and using the knuckles push the rocks down into the dirt often, which is acceptable for the grading purposes that we're doing. Yeah, you can see the excavator working, and my partner keeps coming back out with the rotary laser to check the levels of where I'm at, because we're trying to get it pretty good. And as I said, I'm not the best operator. I'm an amateur, just figuring things out. But we're trying to get it to within about a ½ inch or inch of grade all the way across the whole pad. It's going to be a 12-foot by 16-foot shed. And the area I'm clearing is actually significantly wider than that, probably like 25 feet by 25 feet. It just gives me a little extra room, I guess. And you see some spoils back behind the excavator from my work. I pulled out a ton of big boulders. You can see some very large rocks back there. I'm probably going to use those rocks in landscaping, or maybe for a big fireplace or something like along those lines. Put the biggest rocks off to the side for future use. And right now you can see me, I'm kind of tamping it down, rotating back and forth, and now I'm using the tracks to help smush things down a little bit further. The tracks do a decent job of squishing down, but they're not as good as you would think. It's not as good as like a fully loaded truck tires. So my truck weighs 9,000 pounds. And all that weight is only going across, what, a 6-inch wide strip on each tire that's 1 inch thick. So with all 4 tires. It's 6 inches wide, 4 inches thick, and all that 9,000 pounds goes down in that little maybe 24 square inch area. Now, if you compare that to the excavator weighs 27,000 pounds. However, all of its weight spread out across those huge steel tracks. Tracks are probably like 1.5 feet wide, at least maybe 2 feet wide, and I would have to say 15 or 20 feet long, each one of them. So you get a ton of weight spread across a large distance. So it does smush down, but maybe not quite as amazing as you'd think. You can actually use that bucket in this turn down knuckle position I'm using, and that really puts a lot of pressure, especially as you see those tracks going up. That means probably half the weight is sitting there on that little piece of metal that's pushing down on the back of the bucket. So that really pushes things down. Even with all that, I may not have it quite packed down as much as would be ideal. I probably should have had like a water truck or something and sprayed it down and then squished it down even further, but it's a shed pad, so I think it's actually going to be a little overbuilt